This is the Surly Grognards for June 17th, 2013. This is Peter Bowman, and as usual, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent. That's good to hear. So, tonight we're going to be talking about superstitions in gaming groups and in gaming in general. This is suggested to us by, I think it was Ryu Planeswalker, who suggested this to us. Yes, it was. Just wanted to double check to make sure I had that right. And I thought it would be an interesting sort of topic for just sort of a general meandering discussion, like the way we usually have.
Because we're good at that.
We are. It's sort of our Ryzen d'etre, really. So, Eric.
Yo.
I have a question for you.
Uh-oh. The answer is I didn't do it.
I always have questions for you.
Oh, yeah.
That's sort of the framing device for this whole show. So, Eric, what are some of the most obvious what are the most notable superstitions you've seen at the gaming table in your time gaming?
Never refer to a missile launcher as a missile launcher. They're always rocket launchers. Missile has the word miss in it. Therefore, you'll always miss if you call it a missile launcher.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. That is a new one on me, honestly.
That one has been around ever since I first started playing 40K in high school.
Huh. I've never heard that before. Interesting. Wow. Huh.
They're always rocket launchers or RPGs or anything but missile launcher.
Well, I'll be damned.
For wargamers are a cowardly and superstitious lot.
Yeah, we really are. I mean,
well, gamers in general, really.
Yeah, honestly, they are. I mean, from all I mean, some of them, the classics are, the lucky dice thing is the classic one, and some of that actually has some bearing in reality on the lucky dice thing, but that's usually due to crappy dice.
The old never. If you roll really well with one batch of dice, do not roll them again immediately after. Roll a different batch.
Yep, that's the classic.
They are looking to betray you.
Yep, that's a classic. But yeah, to the lucky dice thing, just as an aside, the classic sort of thing with lucky dice are the dice that you've always rolled well for you, and such. And by lucky dice, it turns out that they really are more loaded dice, and it's not because you're trying to load them or you're cheating or anything like that. It's because honestly, most polyhedral dice are not particularly well made.
This is true.
I know Spoonie did an entire episode of Counter Monkey on dice. I have not watched all of it. I didn't have time. I didn't have the energy. I just didn't have the time. But
I actually missed that one, but that's okay.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that I know I've known about this for a time. Is that most dice that are like most dice you buy for gaming are they how they have sort of rounded edges, rounded corners.
Yeah.
That's because the way that most dice makers make their dice is, they mold them, and then to get rid of the flash and the injection points, they toss them into a tumbler.
Which makes perfect sense.
Right. The problem is that means that the dice are not perfectly weighted anymore.
Yes.
Because that is... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, that makes perfect sense to me. They don't need to be perfectly weighted for something recreational. I mean, it's not like you're talking about...
Vegas.
Yeah, it's not like we're at Vegas or professional gamblers here. We're hanging out with our friends playing games.
Right. The big thing is that a lot, especially with the older dice, on top of that, they were made from pretty soft plastic.
Yes.
So which means over time, between storage in bags with other dice and being rolled a lot, the corners start wearing down. Which means all of a sudden the dice are even less perfectly weighted, and they actually start becoming legitimately loaded. Which is why gamers do have lucky dice. It's not because it's not luck. It's the fact the dice actually do tend to favor certain numbers, and that's sort of like over time thing.
Another thing that I've seen every once in a while is someone will just like prime their dice.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just sit there and roll them and roll them and roll them until they start getting a lot of crappy numbers in a row, to the point where they're certain that the next one's going to be good, so they put it aside.
Right.
And
Yes.
this is based in like the most gross misunderstanding of statistics that I've ever encountered. But they at least try to justify it.
Right. Exactly. No, that's the thing is a lot of these sort of superstitions about dice, and there are boatloads about them of superstitions about rolling dice and random numbers in gaming, are due to entirely largely due to the fact that most people don't really understand probability
Yeah.
and statistics. I mean, and that's just because most people don't study it, because honestly, it's not very interesting.
This is very true.
Uh, I had to study.
I've never taken a class in statistics, but I kind of grasp how they work. Maybe, I don't know. I probably know just enough to be very wrong.
Well, you understand some of the concepts, like the whole concept of being being due for a good result is complete and utter codswallop.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, it really is, because the big thing is that when you're talking about probabilities, this is just as an aside, when you're like, for instance, when you're rolling the dice, when you're rolling a die, every roll you've rolled before that means literally nothing for the next roll.
Yes.
For an individual result, the odds are never different.
Now, this does not stop me from occasionally doing this.
Well, of course not.
Rationality has no place in gaming.
I freely admit there are there are lots of little sort of I'm sure there are lots of little sort of dice habits I have that I do not really thinking about them, but and if you were to ask me, so why do you do that, I'd go, I honestly, there was it's something I used to do because it was to improve my luck, but I know for a fact that it's complete bullshit.
Right.
And Beck in the chat says Mecha's dice are always good. No, they really aren't. My dice.
I have noticed that amongst certain friends of ours that either expound about their ridiculous game dice luck or their terrible dice luck. It was really just the way they tend to remember. They tend to forget either the good or the bad rolls.
Yep, absolutely. That's honestly, it's most common is that.
Although Roach does legitimately have terrible dice.
The thing that most people remember is you will rarely hear someone say that they have good dice luck, or that someone else does. That someone else has bad dice luck.
Yes.
Most of the time, you'll hear, I have bad luck and my opponents have good luck, or
Yes.
other people have good luck. This is because, as Triggerland points out, it's confirmation bias. It's not just confirmation. It's it's not even confirmation bias. It's you remember the bad thing. It's easier. This happens to gamblers. Gamblers remember all the bad beats. They don't remember the lucky wins. And they remember, which means both ways. They don't remember when luck goes badly for them and when things go well for their opponents.
Yep.
So, for the most part, this is not always the case. You tend to remember the fact that things have gone badly for you most of the time, and that other people have had good luck when they've had good luck. Now, this is not to say that there are people who legitimately, at least it seems, that you remember have just bad luck. Roach, our friend Roach is someone.
Friend Roach.
Another guy we both game with, this guy. You remember Edwin, right?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah, he was notorious for having terrible dice luck. For a long time, my friend Joey had terrible dice luck. Well, at least it seemed that way. But I've been paying more attention to over the years, and it evens out.
Yeah, I mean that's true in general.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's just there are plenty of people I know that say that their dice are terrible. Like, even like I'll be playing in a game against them, and they'll be complaining the whole time about their dice. Like, no, you wiped out that unit just previous turn, and you did this just this previous turn. You're just having bad luck in this combat.
Yep.
It's not the whole game.
Yep. And that's the thing, is that people tend to. I mean, people, as I said, as we've said, people. That is the very simple thing, is that you tend to forget. You don't remember the especially in a game like that.
Particularly amazing. You don't remember the good stuff.
Right. Exactly. As not as often. Some people do. It depends. It also depends on their attitudes.
Yes.
There are people who there are people who legitimately will remember the good stuff over the bad stuff. I tend not to. I mean, I tend to notice. I tend to remember when I have particularly long strings either way.
Yeah, the same here. I'm also. It also legitimately depends on my mood, whether I remember the good stuff or the bad stuff. Like, if I'm just sitting down to have a fun time and I really don't care one or the other, then I usually remember the good stuff because, dude, that was awesome.
Right.
Although occasionally I remember the bad stuff because, dude, that was awesome.
Right. I mean, as an example from the games, the games I run on stream, people go on about my dice luck when I'm game mastering, and there are sessions where I have the quote dice are ridiculously in my favor.
Yes,
but
the one time where you critted like everyone in the party twice in a row.
Right. However, do you remember the Feng Shui session where the bad guys could not buy a die roll?
I remember that also.
It goes in cycles, and that's with a computerized random number generator, which are not actually random.
No, they're a fair enough approximation for our purposes.
Exactly. Though. Well, they're not much less random than actually rolling dice, especially given the quality of game polyhedrals players can buy.
Yeah.
Do I ever remember every Blood Bowl game ever? No, I suppressed most of them, Tregolin. Although
there was a guy I learned, one of my first opponents in Blood Bowl named Justin. He was also one of my first Warhammer opponents. And I swear to God, I remember him like being able to influence your dice rolls by chanting. Like, he would just chant over your dice as you're about to roll double skull, double skull, double skull. Now, like, I distinctly remember, like, the vast majority always coming up double skull when he chanted it. Now, this is probably just me remembering it in a more interesting manner, but the double skull for Blood Bowl, I remember being this guy's particular little ritual.
Yep. No, I freely admit, in Blood Bowl, when it comes to Blood Bowl, I remember the bad rolls more than I remember the good rolls. Freely admit this. But looking back on it, I'm also fairly certain that most of my losses are not just due to bad dice rolls. It's the bad dice. They are due to the fact that I've gotten myself into position where the bad dice rolls will cause me to lose.
Yes.
And that is actually a play skill error. Because Blood Bowl, a game like Blood Bowl is really all about minimizing the impact of bad dice.
Isn't that all wargaming in general?
To a degree.
Stacking things as much in your favor as possible. It's kind of like actual war in that way.
That's different than Blood Bowl. The difference is in most wargaming, it's not. What you're trying to do is trying to stack things to your advantage. In Blood Bowl, you're trying to stack things so that you are less screwed when the dice betray you. Because the difference is that most games, when you roll badly in most war games, it means that your opponent you're not hurting your opponent badly. It doesn't really screw you. Whereas in Blood Bowl, when you roll badly, it directly affects your team.
Okay, I could see that argument.
And it's which is one of my complaints about Blood Bowl is the fact that it is both random and the negative effects of the randomness are punitive. And that's my biggest problem with Blood Bowl is, for instance, if you missing attack rolls in most war games means you failed to kill the guy in front of you, right?
Yes, but there's also failed morale rolls, which can have devastating consequences.
I know, but Every single failed die roll in Blood Bowl completely screws you.
I do remember failing the wild animal check on the big dumb roll for the rat ogre, and then using a reroll and failing the wild animal check.
Yep.
That happens a lot, actually.
But that honestly, the big guy failures are the only failures in the entire game that don't end your turn.
That's true.
Every other die roll failure ends your turn, which is harsh.
Yeah.
And I think is honestly bad game design. And that sort of thing doesn't exist in any other Games Workshop game, in all honesty.
No, it really doesn't.
It speeds the game up.
That it does.
But at any rate, I'm not trying to harsh on Blood Bowl here, really, because there's a lot about Blood Bowl I do like. But my point is that that's why the failed rolls in Blood Bowl are so memorable for me. Is that it's not just that I failed to accomplish what I was trying to do; it's that it also then proceeded to make things even worse for me. So it's compounding my mistakes.
Another weird little superstition that I have of mine that's completely unrelated to Wargame, actually.
Okay.
Is never throw out the original character sheet.
Ooh.
Whatever sheet of paper you originally conceived the character on, you need to keep that sheet.
Interesting.
Because every time I have lost or thrown out that paper, the character has died the next session.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
So always keep the original sheet. That's one of mine. And it has absolutely no basis in fact. I understand it doesn't actually mean anything. But
wow. I
this is why the manila folder I have for the Monday night game is so thick.
Right.
It's not just the stuff from the two MechWarrior games. It's every character sheet I've ever had for those games.
Right. Wow. That's actually kind of awesome. I kind of like that. I mean, and it's interesting because of the way different people build their character, like especially these days when a lot of people build their characters on computers. Like they can't really do that.
This is true. Although I'd probably print it up and put it someplace.
No,
safe.
in that case, that's what you do. Yeah, but I mean, like Leland, who I don't think has a physical character sheet for like his last 8 characters.
Yeah.
Well, actually, outside the 4th Ed D&D character he was playing for while he was still playing 4th Ed, because I printed that out for him. So yeah, that's interesting.
I don't think I've ever seen Leland with an actual physical character sheet beyond the 4th Ed game.
I'm trying to think of one. I can't off the top of my head. No, he doesn't. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, he just pulls out the netbook and brings up his character.
Yeah. Wow.
Huh.
Interesting.
So I guess Lynn just never wipes the hard drives.
Well, no, I imagine he deletes old ones, or he just writes them over is the thing. So
yeah.
I mean, I know for a fact that in the second my Thursday night D&D game, I still have the original character sheet. It's because it's the only character sheet I have for that campaign. I've not transferred anything over. I keep erasing on it, updating on it. It's looking kind of ratty at this point.
Right. No, I've got character sheets in places that have had like curry spilled on them, and I've kept them.
Well, of course.
Because otherwise that character would die.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other little sort of gaming superstitions that I can think of off the top of my head that I've seen. I mean, the classics, like I like that the character sheet ones. I like that's one I've not heard before, but I can see it. I can see other players doing. I
don't know if anyone else that does it, because I don't think it's something anyone actually talks about. But it's a little one of mine.
Right. Yeah, I don't have many that I can think of off the top of my head. Like I habitually will try to use the same dice. In a given role-playing like campaign, I will try to make sure I'm using the same dice over and over again for that campaign. But not because I think it's going to improve my luck or anything like that. It's just because I'm sort of, a tiny bit OCD that way. It's not really OCD. It's more just like, it's a habit. It's like oh well, I've got my dice here, and I just start associating certain dice with certain campaigns. I think is what it is.
I think that's fair enough. I try not to put my dice in my mouth.
Well, you put everything else in your mouth.
Put everything else in my mouth.
Dun dun dun.
But if I put the dice in my mouth, they'll be angry with me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The classic dice thing I've seen is the whole if you roll if a particular die rolls badly more than once for you, you stop using that one.
Yeah, the die is fired.
The die is fired.
I think all of us have done this.
I've done it. Again, not expecting things to. I don't actually expect things to improve, but I usually think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
You're fired.
I have seen dice that have been consistently bad be destroyed.
I have actually also. I know someone who. This one's great. There was one die. It was for D&D, and this one guy had this one die that was. And it was also one of the older, softer plastic dice.
Right.
That was. Shall we say it just consistently rolled badly for him. I think it basically gotten itself it
right.
won itself into a bad weighting. So what he did is he had a very cheap old blender that he was going to be getting rid of anyways. He arranged all the rest of his dice in a circle around it and proceeded to destroy that die in that blender as an example to the rest of his dice.
I remember someone who used to do something similar, except he'd burn the dice.
It was very loud. Watch.
This is what happens when you fail me.
I remember in one particular campaign, I forget who did it. But at the start of the campaign, before rolling any dice for the campaign, it was I forget what type of what's this. It was I think it was Hero System, but I forget. It was I think I don't remember what system it was, but they constructed a D6 out of cardstock and burned it as a sacrifice to the dice gods.
Awesome. That's kind of awesome.
I liked that one. Again, I don't think they were taking it seriously, but
well, no one does it seriously.
There are people who do it seriously.
They are. Okay.
Well, come on, there are people who are legitimately superstitious.
Yes, this is true. And which is why I was gonna say something and I realized, yeah, you're right.
There are people who are legitimately superstitious. Now, they don't tend to do the more extreme stuff, but there are lots of little dice things that you see people do that they do because they legitimately believe it improves their luck.
Not just the double skull thing, but I've known people would mutter over their dice.
Yep.
I have no idea whether they're trying to intimidate the dice or imploring the dice or praying or what, but they'd mutter over the dice right before they roll.
Right. So there's that. There's rolling the dice in a particular way. Demanding people be quiet when they roll the dice.
Never ever touch your dice.
Never ever let anyone else touch their dice.
Yes, or you'll steal their luck.
Right. Oh,
that was one I actually used to have, and was slowly broken over time.
Well, honestly, in my personal, for me, I don't touch other people's dice without asking, just because it's a social faux pas. Not because it actually will affect anything, but because it's just not done.
That's true. It's just not proper.
It's bad etiquette. It's bad. It's bad gamer etiquette.
It's bad etiquette.
Part of it's just because it's stuff that belongs to somebody else. You should ask them before you actually
Right. And I always try to use my own dice whenever I'm rolling anything. Again, because it's a faux pas to have to bum dice off of someone.
Right. Exactly. There's lots of little things like that. Almost all of it involves, as you'll notice, most of this involves actually the dice. But because Dice are hateful little denizens of just pure chaos and randomness. Oh wait, they actually are, literally. That's sort of the whole point of dice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of other. I mean, I'm forgetting
there
some.
are definitely more out there. Like I said, that a lot of them involve. Remember someone who would always insist on being the one to bring the snacks, because he thought it gave him good luck.
Okay.
Which was fine. It meant I got to eat snacks and I have to pay for them.
And that's sort of my take. It's like, wow, this is a completely harmless superstition. In fact, it's a superstition that's beneficial to me.
Yes,
free snacks.
Your luck-giving snacks.
Wow. I've known people who actually there are a couple other superstitions I have seen. I'm remembering now. This is way back when, but people who their character sheets had to be written in a particular type of pencil, otherwise things would go wrong. If it wasn't with if it wasn't with a number 2 pencil, it was just wrong. You couldn't write. And I know people who said if it was not written in ink, it means that you don't trust the character.
Yep. I've known people who refuse to use pre-made character sheets.
Yep.
Everything has to be handwritten. I know people who are the opposite.
Right. They won't do it without a pre-made.
Said that that with handwriting the entire character sheet means that you're it's a craftsman's thing. You're putting a lot of care and effort into it. But with the professionally pre-made character sheets, you obviously care enough to invest in the character.
Right. Exactly. Oh, and Zay in the chat mentions a special seat that you have to sit in. Absolutely. There's.
Oh yes.
Now, I admit that there is almost every gaming group, there is a very sort of rigid seating thing that just develops.
Yeah. And it's not like it's enforced or anyone gets upset if it doesn't happen, but it's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like
it sits in a particular spot for that game.
Right, exactly. For the Thursday night game, as an example, our table, the two places we play at, my friend Peter and my friend Kyle's place, I always sit at one end of the table. That's mostly due to the fact that I usually game master. I'm usually the GM. So me being at one end of the table makes sense. But when someone else game masters, we just don't bother moving me. The game master sits the other end of the table.
Right.
And so people adjust the seating a little bit for that. Which is it's a convenience thing. I appreciate it because it means that I know exactly where I'm going to be sitting every time. I don't have to think about it.
I've noticed that I tend to sit as far away as possible from the game master. Like on the Sunday night game, I always sit to Matt's left on the opposite end of the table from where he's sitting at the head. On the Monday night's game that Chris runs, I tuck myself into the corner of his couch on the opposite side of the room. I don't do it with you, but it's because we both sit on the same end of the couch, and that would mean moving.
Yeah, well, there's also the fact that the reason we're sitting on the end of the couch is that has the best lanes for sticking our legs out because we both have long. We're both tall and like having our legs stretched out because otherwise our knees cramp up.
Yes, there are many times where I've stood up in the middle of session and Chris has gone, "What? I just need to stand."
Your couch is too low. If I actually sit normally, my knees cramp up.
Yeah, your couch is about 12 inches too short, Chris. And your coffee table has no space for me to slide my legs underneath. In fact, the space between your couch and the coffee table is too short for me to have my feet straight.
Yeah. There's a reason I sit where I do there, because that means I can literally stretch my legs out easily.
Yeah, and same deal with me tucking myself on the couch, because then I can just stick my legs out over the end of the couch.
Right, exactly. All right, let's see. But yeah, the seating thing really isn't, It
has less to do with,
superstition, has more to do with just sort of social convention almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
But
of
yeah,
that.
that's something that you've mentioned. I've noticed. I almost always try to sit as far away from the game master as possible.
Right.
I'm not sure what that is. Why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, so yeah, I would definitely say that. Someone in the chat mentions people wearing the same lucky shirt. There are people who do that.
Yep.
Most of that actually I see. It's not so much in a weekly game, although that happens. I tend to wear the same shirts just because I don't have. Most of my shirts look almost identical to one another because I'm not very. What's the word? Fashionable. I tend to be very. I tend to. I've got a lot of shirts that look exactly the same.
Yeah, you've got a lot of off-white dress shirts.
Yeah. Basically,
Just like I have a lot of black T-shirts.
Exactly. I've got a bunch of gray dress shirts, a bunch of blue and white ones with blue pinstripes. I don't wear the pure white ones when I'm not actually being actually dressed up because
right.
No.
Yeah, and I always wear black T-shirts because that's all I own.
Yeah, I bet I'm running.
They've got various things on them, but they're all black T-shirts at their core.
Yeah, I have. I'm running low on T-shirts. I mean, I have a bunch of polo shirts, but they're all old and are getting very worn down, as you've noticed.
Yeah,
and I'm running down to about. I'm running low on them that are actually even remotely wearable, because they're all very old. Because for a long time I never really had an opportunity to wear them because I was working. This is where I was working.
Right.
So I've gotten into the habit of just wearing, button-down shirts. So I don't wear the polo shirts and T-shirts much anymore. At any rate, but yeah, there are people who definitely do have their lucky shirts and such.
Yep, or lucky socks and whatnot.
Lucky pencils, lucky hats. I mean,
lucky rings.
Almost any superstition you see anywhere will show up at a gaming table somewhere.
Yes.
But the ones
however, I very rarely see anyone paint themselves in the team colors for their game session.
This is true.
That's not to say I haven't been at a convention and seen wargamers cosplaying as the faction that they're playing.
Oh, yeah, that happens all the time.
Because that's awesome.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. It's more you go conventions is where you'll see a lot more. Honestly, most of the weird lucky stuff I've seen has been at conventions.
Yep.
I don't go to them. I don't go to them very often, especially not much anymore. But
yeah, I don't go very often anymore. I used to really love them, but haven't really done it much lately.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones that I've seen at conventions. The lucky shirt thing I see at conventions more often than I see anywhere else.
I've seen people do like a little hop skip dance at tournaments before they roll.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen at tournaments, people especially especially at wargaming tournaments.
Yep.
Specifically like Games Workshop ones. People taking their large collection of D6s, rolling them, and then basically filtering out a bunch because they didn't roll an acceptable number, rolling again, filtering out a bunch till they got a number of dice that they were rolling quote acceptably.
I have seen that. I don't see it very often, but I've seen it.
And then repeating that before every game.
That's a weird one, honestly.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but
the culling of your dice.
I've seen it a surprising amount, actually.
Yeah.
But that only really happens in games where you're rolling the same type of dice over and over and over again.
With wargaming, the newly painted model will always die before achieving anything. That's a very common superstition.
Yep, that is.
So because you just invested all this work into it, of course it's going to fail you miserably when it on its first outing.
Right, exactly. I'm trying to remember any other ones I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sort of just blanking. Yeah, that's the thing is that I most of the people I game with aren't particularly superstitious, in all honesty.
Although I will say I took that Dire Troll Extreme I have for my Troll Bloods.
Yep.
I just finished painting that right before a tournament, so I wasn't expecting it to perform well at all, and it destroyed everything around it at that tournament. It completely broke that superstition for me.
Oh, there we go. But yeah, like honestly, I don't notice many sort of superstitions that are Monday night game that show up that
Yeah,
are noticed.
not really.
I mean, you always keep your first character sheet thing.
Yeah,
Um, I've noticed that Chris gets more invested in his character once he has an actual portrait for it, but that's less a
yes.
superstition and more of a just finding ways to become invested in the character thing.
I'll often do like little sketches and doodles of my character during session.
Right. But again, that really has nothing to do with superstitions.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me see here. What else?
oh God. Oh. Well, yeah. There are also always the classic superstitions that again pop up in non gaming culture, but that pop up. You know, like never say it can't possibly get any worse.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Aha, we've won. Now we just need to. Never say that.
right. Lots of little like phrases you shouldn't say at the table because you are
Just
going
don't roll a 1. Guarantees you're going to roll a 1.
right. Yeah. Oh, I have thought of the actual one superstition, which is I know for a fact I see a lot, and I know it's bullshit, but it happens anyways. In old edition, second edition, earlier D&D, dwarves always fail poison saves because they have massive bonuses to their poison saves.
Right, right.
And it's astonishing. It's it really, really, really is stupid. But my experience has been this is not literally not just me not remembering the bad stuff, but it's happened recently to my dwarven character. But I've that thank God he's a cleric, so he has neutralized poison now. Whew. Thank Moradin. But literally, it's the whole okay. My character has a very high. Dwarves get a bonus to their saving throw against poison and magic, based on their constitution. My dwarf has a very high constitution, so he gets +4 to his saves. All these saves. So my save against poison is naturally a 9, and I get +4 to the roll. You know how many failed poison saves I have, and how many succeeded I've succeeded with is?
Lots?
Well, it's a very small sample size
Okay.
because it's I believe if I remember correctly, I failed 2 and passed 1. This means that I have rolled a 4 or less twice and a 5 or better once. Now again, minuscule sample size. And
Right.
my dwarven the save has benefited me on my magic saves more than once. In fact, I've saved against certain spells by the bonuses saved me on literally the bonus itself is what saved me on multiple occasions. But against poison, for some bizarre reason,
You always fail it.
it's astonishing. It's a running gag, but it's honestly I swear to God, it's not just confirmation bias.
It's
But in all honesty, it's small sample size is what it really is. But it's astonishing.
no way, dude, because it happened to you once. This in this one specific time. That means it happens all the time that way for everybody.
Oh no, it's happened to me several times in several different situations. Therefore, it happens to everybody all the time.
Right.
This is, by the way, and that's the thing. Zayon actually in the chat actually just brought up the exact reason why what it is, and this is actually specifically that actually ties into the guy with the ridiculous armor class who gets critted every round. That's because a crit is basically the only way only thing that can hit him. And again, so a ridiculously low roll failure is the only way a dwarf can fail a saving throw against poison. So that's going to stick out. Is part of it. That said, it's been astonishing, and I know it's bullshit. It's entirely observer error. In all honesty,
Yeah, probably.
And it's
But
and it's purely anecdotal evidence, which is a debate I've had with some people in our group recently about
yes.
about like this is always true. This is always true for you, which does not mean that it's true for everybody else, because there are thousands of people who are playing the game X, and from what I've seen people talking about it, they don't have the same problem you do. Now, I have the same problem, so I think, it's probably true, but don't assume that it's true for everybody.
Anecdotal evidence doesn't count.
We don't have all the data.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other superstitions you want to talk about, or do you want to move on to the?
I can think off the top of my head. I'll probably think of a ton afterwards. But
Well, that's a given.
another superstition.
Well, no, that's actually just the way the brain literally actually works.
That's true.
It's when you're actually focusing on something. Sometimes you actually force yourself to think. Your brain starts thinking about other things. But we did get an email question, so I do want to do that before we forget.
Oh, excellent. Let's do that.
This is from Dudell. And by the way, before we start the questions, just as a reminder, if you have questions you'd like to ask us on Surly Grognards, we try to save time at the end of every episode to answer them. So you can email it to us. I'll give you the email address at the end of the show. Or if you're watching us live, you can post them in the chat. And if you've got questions in the chat for the show, start posting them now, and we'll try to get to them we'll try to get to a few of them because we have time. But I want to answer the email question first. We also have forums where you can post them. Again, I'll give the information at the end of the show. But anyways, this is a follow-up question from Dude L to his question about the Mass Effect game he was trying to run.
Okay.
You remember that he was basically asking what system he might want to try using for doing Mass Effect in as an RPG. Okay, so he's decided that he wants to run his Mass Effect game using Rogue Trader. There are plenty of things he thinks that are compatible with the Mass Effect setting, like a combination of melee combat and gunplay, emphasis on being part of a ship crew, and, quote, magic and, quote, powers. I could probably come up with good enough fluff to explain some of the stuff that seems uniquely tied to the 40k universe, such as corruption points counting towards Reaper indoctrination instead of influence from chaos. I like that.
Yes.
Mechanically, all the base classes except for the Navigator can just be called something else to still work, and psychodisciplines would have biotic explanations. For example, divination powers would not be seeing into the future, but be simply explained as biotic buffs like the warp ammo power from Mass Effect 2 and 3. I think I would also limit telepathy to Arsari characters since they have the closest thing to telepathy in the Mass Effect universe. So I'm asking you guys, mainly Eric, since he's the one I know who's played Rogue Trader, yep, if you could lend me some advice on this. What things that would and wouldn't work in the Mass Effect setting, what would be equivalents, and how could I differentiate between different races for player characters? An example would be a Solarian PC, those are the guys with the big eyes, they're very smart.
Yep.
Would have higher starting intelligence, and a Krogan would be for the most part an Orc Freebooter.
Yes, that was going to suggest that the Krogan plus Orc Freebirder equals playable character.
Also, I have no idea what to do if someone wanted to play a Geth.
Oh, jeez. How would you do a Geth and Rogue Trader?
This is entirely your boat because I've not even read the rules.
There are rules out there for Necrons. I would see, not to play as one, obviously, but I would see about maybe adapting them for a PC. I remember they've got some weird rule where they don't use toughness; they instead just have really high armor value. But yeah, anyway. Oh, geez, I just completely crapped my brain. My brain is filled with poop.
Oh dear. that seems poor. But
yeah.
Anything else you can think of that might be of use for him?
The Solarian, yeah, you might want to think about giving them a natural intelligence because they're supposed to be that friggin' bright.
Yeah, and I think the Asari having access to pure telepathy, nobody else making sort of amount of sense.
Yeah. I really like the corruption instead of being Reaper indoctrination. That's pretty cool. Let me see here what else. I think you want to keep insanity because insanity is a fun thing. Um, but yeah, the orc freebooters have a special rule. They just ignore corruption. I would remove that special ability from them. For Krogan, there is no reason why a Krogan wouldn't be able to be indoctrinated by the Reapers.
It happens. So
Yeah, it happens. So yeah, they they're now affected by corruption. The end. I just completely spaced on the question as part of the problem.
so yeah.
I can't remember it.
Well, the question is basically: are there any things that would or wouldn't work for Mass Effect setting that that in Rogue Trader, and sort of equivalent things that you could sort of that you could draw equivalencies between, sort of things you need to that you could refluff easily.
Yeah.
That would stand out to you.
There's not a huge dearth of alien races to play in Rogue Trader because the Imperium of Mankind are dicks. That's exactly the reason. That the only reason that the Freebooter got published is because they're ridiculously unchoosy mercenaries. They really don't care who they work for as long as they're getting paid,
right.
Which is why they're playable characters at all. No one else will deal with the Imperium of Mankind. They're that big of a dick.
Right. So, yeah.
But, for Solarians, I'd probably just give them a natural intelligence, give them like an extra +5 on their perception, and call it a day for that race. Maybe and give them the usual like immune to seduction from other species because except for Asari because
they're sorry.
Yeah, because they're Asari and entirely different standards of beauty.
Yeah, I would also probably suspect that they probably would have some sort of balancing to balance that out. I remember correctly, they are slightly more fragile than most races, and they have shorter lifespans.
That's easily done by just reducing the starting amount of fate points they get.
See, exactly. There you go. And
only allow them 1 or 2 fate points. Trust me, that's a huge handicap.
And I would say humans and forget the name of the race. Garrus's race. Turians. Honestly, stat-wise, basically the same.
Yeah. You might want to give. No, I was gonna say that you could make them use the Kroot as a leaping off place, but Kroot, aside from some visual similarities, really are entirely different, both culturally and physiologically.
Right.
Like, there's no reason Turians should have a natural strength.
No, Turians are from a purely physical standpoint, not really that different from humans, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. For Asari, obviously, you give Asari give them all some basic psychic capability, and let them use seduction on anything that's alive.
Right. And they have, and they, again, there's don't need rules for this, but they have longer lifespans.
Yeah, and I probably would just let them have normal amounts of fate.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying that it's just one of those notes that okay, Asari live longer than anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Give them a bonus to their starting fellowship, but like a penalty to their starting strength or something. Balance it out that way.
Yep. Well, yeah. Again, that's true. Quarians and Turians can't eat regular human food, but that's one of those. Okay, just keep track of that. Quarians, again, you'll have to come up with some minor tweaks to them because they can't handle normal atmospheres because they're because they are very vulnerable to contaminants and such.
Oh, the Tally's race.
Yes.
Yeah. Any Quarians you have need to be the sweetest one on the ship. That everybody likes. The end. That's pretty much how I imagine Quarians now. They're just really nice guys.
Well, Tali is, but I mean, we've not seen it. The problem is we really haven't seen any other ones.
Well, going by the Star Wars rules, any character of the species you meet is automatically a paragon of that species. So all Turian or Quarians are really nice guys.
I will
The
point out that what's his bucket? Rex actually proceeds to point that out as being complete and utter bullshit in an actual conversation with him in the game.
Quiet you.
I forget one of your companions basically asked him about so, and he basically point about something like what did Kroger's think about X, and he's like, just be oh, so I assume all humans think exactly the same way, and she's like, oh well, fuck, sorry. He's like, which I think it was a wonderful moment. Just like that was really nicely done.
Yeah, Rex is awesome.
Well, Rex is awesome.
This is probably my favorite companion. It's a shame I haven't figured out a way to get him to live yet.
Oh, I did. You can talk him down.
Can you?
Oh yeah.
The two times I've tried it, I've been in the middle of talking him down when what's the face walks up and shoots him in the back of the head.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow. I actually, as I said, the one time I actually finished the game, he didn't die. I saved his life. Had you gotten his family armor when that scene had come up yet?
You know what? I don't think I had.
You cannot save him unless you've recovered his family armor.
Okay.
It's literally impossible.
Yeah, because what's-her-face walks up and double taps him in the back of the head.
You also have to be very Renegade or very Paragon, obviously.
Right. Well, that's not hard. But here's the problem is, in conversations, I always come up Renegade. When it comes to the actual actions, I somehow end up Paragon. Like the planet with the giant friggin' plant monster. I have a solution that will negate the plant's effects briefly and knock out the colonists. I'm like, excellent. We'll use that because it is an easy way to win. Paragon. What do you mean, Paragon?
Well, it is the Paragon. The option is either that or it's this and save their lives, or kill them. Honestly, that really shouldn't be. I'm not sure that really should be Paragon.
That shouldn't be Paragon or Renegade. One is an obviously tactically superior option. The other one is just short-sighted dumbness.
Wait, are you saying that the morality system in a Bioware game is not well done?
Yes.
Because they never are. Sorry, I shouldn't blame this entirely on Bioware. Morality systems in video games are never well done.
This is true. I chose the just kill everyone, and you know what his reasons were? That'll take too long, but I have it right here. I don't care. I want to bathe in the blood of the innocent. Let's go.
That's not Renegade. That is asshole. That's not even just asshole. That's fucking evil.
Yeah.
Renegade is not supposed to be evil. It's supposed to be, expediency.
And that was obviously the expedient solution. You have it right now. It'll knock them out with one shot. Let's do it.
Well, it's like as much as I love Knights of the Old Republic, the problem with playing Darkseid is you cannot be subtle Darkseid in any way, shape, or form. You have to either be good guy or puppy kicking evil.
Yeah.
Why did you kick the puppy? Because it was there.
It looked at me with large, sad eyes, and sadness is a form of weakness.
No, that's too much explanation, Eric. Way too much explanation. Oh, God. All right, guys. Looks like we don't have any questions from the chat. I think we're going to wrap things up here for this week.
Yeah, I'll probably come up with more like Rogue Trader / Mass Effect stuff in between time.
Yep.
So, yeah, that one totally caught me off guard, especially since I haven't played Rogue Trader in a week. So.
All right, guys. So thanks for everybody for watching the live recording. I hope everybody had a good time. We'll be back hopefully next week. Not sure if we'll be back on Monday or Tuesday next week. That will depend on the schedule of the people we play our weekly game with. Our host basically is having something that's come up on Mondays, and we've on Tuesday nights, which when we usually game is, so we switched back to Mondays for a short period of time. No, wrong way around. It's on Mondays, and we're switching back to Tuesdays for the time being.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to move to Tuesday, be able to be moved to it's at his job, and whether it can be moved to Tuesdays or not, we'll find out. So we may be switching schedule, maybe switching to Mondays from here going forward, or we may be moving back to Tuesdays in a week or two. We'll see. At any rate, guys, thanks for watching. If you've got questions for us, we love getting questions. We love getting feedback. We love getting everything. We love getting everything, information about the show. If you got feedback for us about the show, good or bad, tell us how we can make things better. Tell us what we're doing wrong. We love that. You got questions you'd like us to answer in the show. We love getting that. If you've got show topics, we really love that.
We really love that. Holy crap, do we love that.
You can email us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com, surlygrognards@yahoo.com. Or you can post on the forums, mechagm.forumer.com. There's a section there for both questions, feedback, and for show topic suggestions. Please post there. Or you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @mechagm. You can also find me both on Facebook and Google+. I'm Peter Bowman in both places. So yeah, that's that for this week, I think. Anything else? You got anything else, Eric?
I think we're good.
Excellent. So until next week, guys, take care, and we'll see